Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this video conference today. The purpose of our call is to allow you to hear from some professional flooring dealers, others like yourselves who are living on the front line and have had their world altered by this coronavirus, COVID-19. They're going to be sharing with you how they have adapted, what they're doing to achieve success, and what they will do differently after this is over and we enter our new norm, whatever that may be. If you have questions during the course of our conference today, if you'll use the chat box at the bottom or the Q&A segment, we'll be monitoring those throughout. And if you have your question directed to one particular person, make sure that you let that person know that you want them to answer. Also, at the end of our time with what I'm calling our retail rock stars, I'll be turning it back over to Jeff King. You know Jeff by now. Jeff is probably the most known person in the flooring industry these days because he has been the industry expert on everything related to the coronavirus, COVID-19, and how it impacts your business. And we're going to spend the last 15 minutes of our time today with Jeff. So you can go ahead and pre-post your questions if you have them for Jeff. He's got, I know, a PowerPoint he'll be running through very quickly, but we'll make him available. And our time is slotted for 1 hour, but if we go over that hour and you'd like to stay on for your questions to be answered, I'm not sure of our panelists' time restrictions, but I can stay on, and I think Jeff may be able to stay on a few more minutes as well to make sure that everything is answered for you. I'm the CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, Scott Humphrey, and we really focus on your needs. In fact, our purpose statement says that we exist to ensure the success and profitability of professional flooring dealers and to represent their common interest. And a lot of the reason our numbers are growing so rapidly right now is that representation of you in Washington, D.C., done with Jeff King and also with our lobbying firm, Lobby It. There, we're getting information firsthand, relaying that information to you, and really Jeff does a phenomenal job of translating that for your benefit so you know what the call to action is related specifically to you. So I'll turn it over to Jeff a little bit later, but let me take a moment to introduce you to our panelists today. The first is Deb DeGraff. She is the owner of DeGraff Interiors. Deb, wave at them. Guys, you'll really need to do that. I think they'll know which one is Deb. She's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She's been in the flooring industry 23 years and around it even longer than that. She is also the current chairman of the WFCA Board of Directors. Next is Dean Howell. Dean, if you'll give them a little wave there so they'll know which one is you. Okay, the head nod was Dean there. That's him. He is the owner of Motive Floors and Interiors in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been in the flooring industry 17 years. He spent another 18 years in the corporate world. And he is the chair-elect of the WFCA Board of Directors. So he will be following Deb in that role. Next is Sam O'Krent. I don't know where he is on your screen. He's on the bottom of my screen. That's Sam. Sam is the CEO of O'Krent Floors, San Antonio, Texas. He has been 41 years in the flooring industry, which is amazing because he looks 30, but somehow he says that is true. He is the current treasurer of the WFCA Board of Directors. And last, certainly not least, and the one who will be filtered throughout the day, Don Roberts. Don is the owner of Central Alabama Flooring, which obviously is throughout Central Alabama, multiple locations. He's been in the industry 45 years. I've known Don for quite some time, and he has served in many roles. He's also a columnist for one of the media publications today and has been an advocate for many things to improve not only his stores, as all of these panelists have, but also to improve your lives and your potential for success. Guys, thank you for being with me. I appreciate these guys for many reasons. They're all personal friends of mine. I've gotten to know them well. I know that they care about not only their business, but they care about the industry as a whole. I know that because I've seen the commitment of time that they have given to the WFCA, and it is well beyond what someone should be able to give. I mean, obviously, they're taking their personal time for your success because they are full-time into their businesses. They have had amazing success. You may look at some of them and say, they're too young. What can they tell me about what's going on in the industry today? How do they know how to adapt? You may look at others and say, man, they've been around too long. Can they really adapt? Let me just remind you that age is also experience. And some of these people you see before you have ridden through some of the deepest recessions that we've seen in modern times. This is not new to them. They felt this experience before, and they will be sharing with you not only the expertise of how they have adapted during this cycle, but also how they learned that and how it impacted them in the past. So without further ado, guys, if you're ready, I'd like to dive into this. I will direct my questions to one of you particularly. If any of the rest of the panelists want to also follow up on that, if you'll just raise your hand, I'll note that and we'll call on you as a follow-up. Deb, I'm going to start with you because I'm a Southern guy and ladies first. What is something that you were forced to do during this time? Obviously, something none of us expected, that those with us today can use moving forward. Once this stay-at-home protection, it may be lifted in some areas. I know in your area, you've been impacted even more so than most. But what are some things that they can do once this time is lifted to achieve success?
I think one of the largest things for me is 8 weeks ago, I had not heard of the word Zoom. I mean, in the context of which we're using it today, and we were all forced to immediately adapt and use that platform or another. There's many virtual platforms for training and just communicating with your staff. And we immediately jumped on board with that. And daily we were communicating. And I'll admit, some of those days were social gatherings. I mean, it was just, we were all in our own homes and not seeing each other. And one of the things that it really brought to the surface for me is that I spend more time with some of these people than I do my own kids and my husband. And that's the reality of a lot of our lives. And I think just realizing that we can still communicate and we can still be with each other in a virtual sense, in using that moving forward. I know we're all extremely excited, and us personally, we just got back into our showrooms on Monday. And just to be around each other and in that normal environment, or as normal as it can be right now, is awesome. And we're very glad to be able to do that. But I don't want to abandon completely what we've learned from Zoom and GoToMeeting and all those other things, because they allowed us to also be extremely efficient. And so I want to not just say, oh, to heck with Zoom and be gone with it, because I think there's a lot of ways that we as owners, managers, can communicate very efficiently with our people and our staff as we move forward. So that I think is probably my largest takeaway from being forced to stay at home for so long.
Yeah, and Deb, you're on a call with me. Thank you, Sam O'Krent. You're the one that started this call for us, but it's a group of retailers from around the country. Really, Zoom makes that possible. The ability to communicate with people who aren't right, they're not the competitive neighbor to you. You can share your best practices and you can glean that information from other people and apply it, or determine at least if it would work in your environment. So that's another way that Zoom is being used. And you're right. I mean, it has changed the way we will communicate forever. Sam, would you follow up on that?
Absolutely. The going into all of this, none of us had any of the answers. This is a brand new, we've all gone through tough times and we've managed that, but we've never experienced anything like this. So just the power of being able to connect with other retailers, non-competing retailers across the country, get on a Zoom call, brainstorm with each other. Between all of us, we've been able to come up with some great ideas. Certainly nothing that I could have come up with on my own. So that's been a great takeaway from all of this.
Yeah, I'll also note here, many of you represent some of the largest groups or some of the largest conglomerations of memberships, Shelfwing Network, Mohawk Edge, that we have in the industry. You have organizations and structures that you can share best practices within. Sometimes it helps to get somebody else's perspective on those things. One thing that I've always been clear to say, the WFCA will never be a buying group. We're not here to replace the groups. That's not our intent. But if in some way we can supplement by sharing additional information, putting experts in front of them as you are today, I think that's one of the purposes to fulfill the purpose statement of the WFCA. All right, Dean, I'm going to go to you next. Dean, how do we offer additional shopping options? What are new ways to engage with our clients? Obviously, it's difficult for them to come into our showrooms, and some of us are still, I think, on appointment only. How many of you by hand raised are still appointment only? Anybody? Okay, so Dean is. So how do you still connect when you can't necessarily be face-to-face with them as you were before?
Well, first of all, on appointment only, we have not, we found as we're coming out of this, people want to come in and they're setting appointments. So we feel really good about that. I don't think we've lost too much traction in terms of being appointment only at this point. But, first of all, I would say that we have, like many of you online here, have beautiful showrooms. And I think the fact remains that, from our opinion, a great showroom combined with well-trained salespeople still remains, our preferred shopping option, our number one shopping option. That's not going to change. Having said that, we think that mobile shop at home is viable. It was before COVID. I think COVID-19 has enhanced the notion of mobile shop at home. Last month, kind of at the beginning of all of this, we decided to add a second mobile shop at home and have started to actively promote this as an option. And we're seeing traction with that. As we all are coming out of this, we're betting that, there's going to be consumers out there that are still afraid, to come into their showroom, but they'll do a mobile shop at home option where we can come into their home and in a place where they're able to kind of control the environment. I think the other thing for mobile shop at home is it has expanded our reach. We're in a densely populated area. Coming into Atlanta, where our showroom is closer into the city, it can be a drive, although not recently, but I mean, it can be a drive, and I think it's going to, be interesting going forward to see if we can expand our reach further out into the outer suburbs for us. And we'll be thinking about that going forward for sure. So what else? Okay. Oh, another cool thing, I think many of us are doing is we're offering the virtual shop at home option. So literally, what does that mean? We're engaging clients, offering them that option by back to Zoom again, right? Zoom or FaceTime, inviting clients in. We're literally, walking around. Hey, you want to see a porcelain tile that looks like marble? Let us show you what a herringbone pattern looks like on the floor in our showroom. And we're having, a first meeting engagement with a virtual meeting, and we're experiencing success doing that. I don't see that changing. I think that's something that we'll continue to do going forward.
In some ways, Dean, that may make it easier to get both of the people making the primary decision together at one time.
Absolutely. That's always been a challenge. In our opinion, we see the virtual meeting, consultation, and I think consultation is the key point on all of this, that it ends in two possibilities. One, back to a shop at home, or let's call it close at home, go in, confirm the selection, measure, and close the deal. Or, on larger projects, multi-service projects, results maybe in that face-to-face meeting in the showroom where we're able to get those final selections. But anyhow, I think at the end of the day, it could be a way to, to add convenience to our process, save time for our clients, save time for us as well. So we're excited about that. To support all of these shopping options, we are working on with our digital marketing firm. In our case, we work with Creating Your Space. We've added many more images, product images to our product catalog. We've added enhanced room scene visualization tools, along with an online measure tool. It'd be interesting to see how that works. And then we, of course, have always, many of you may be aware of Podium, which is a service you can access through the WFCA that allows us to, to communicate with our clients by text. So I don't know, these are things that I think we were thinking about before COVID, but certainly COVID has shined a light on some of these different options. So I hope that helps.
Kind of forced us into it. And you're right, they were available before, but we didn't have to utilize them. It was too easy to stay where we were. Don, I know you've been raising your hand.
No, one of the things we've got going today, I mean, if you got people walking in your store, you got people calling you today, they're serious buyers. I mean, it's the day today of having tire kickers walk around your store, just trying to check things out or whatever. You've got serious buyers out there, and people aren't going to go to 5 locations to shop. They're not going to do it. They're going to spend some time on the internet. Obviously, you need to make sure your websites and everything are primo so that people can get a good idea of what you have available and everything else. But they're not going to go to 5 different stores anymore. I think they're going to even stay away from some of the big boxes, although they're, it's kind of funny, the stores like ours that we could have literally controlled having 3 to 4 people in our showroom at a time, they close those, but they leave open the ones that hundreds of people can come in. It made no sense, but again, that's our government picking winners and losers. But I think we do a good job of that. I mean, heck, we've been social distancing our whole lives. I wish I had 100 people in my store at a time. It'd be awesome, But it has really narrowed things down. I mean, you can spend time and give good time to customers, and they're definitely interested and they're definitely buying.
Don, you are one of the ones who has had success during this time. You want to talk a little bit about how you have actually seen some increases in certain areas because you've shifted the way you're selling?
Alabama's been, I mean, we've been pretty blessed in Alabama. I mean, we have not had, we're not New York. We're not, we're not some of these areas that have these really major hot spots. While we have had some deaths, again, they've been mostly older people, a lot of people in nursing homes and stuff. So we have been open the whole time. We work the gray area of, part of the construction industry. We're only about 50% retail. So the rest of our business is builder, multifamily, new construction, Main Street. So, our people, and again, taking, what do you do different in this time? You get more aggressive in this time. I mean, there's a lot of retailers out there that their salespeople sit there looking at that door, waiting for it to swing. Believe me, I have those people also. And they complain when their check isn't so big during a time like this because they didn't put the effort out there on commission. I mean, good Lord. So we have people that, some of my managers, a couple of my managers at Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, they divided up the city into a grid. They started calling closed businesses, saying, hey, you're down already. If you had time, if you were planning on doing some remodeling, great time to do it. And we've got a lot of business off of that. It's been great.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's great.
And again, we social distance when we go into people's homes to install. I mean, it's not like we're sending 8 installers in there. Now, the big difference today, and we said this before, is that everybody's home, right? All the kids are home, mom and dad's home. So you don't have an totally empty house. So you got to be careful there. But I would tell you the secret to success is you don't give up. You don't go, oh, woe is me. I can't do a darn thing about it. Yes, you can. You can always do something about it.
Yeah. And Don, one thing I was thinking about this the other day, everybody's there right now, but as soon as you get this lift and people can travel, they'll be going away as a family somewhere, which is going to be great idle time in that location for you to go in and do what needs to be done without many people being at home. Sam, were you going to say something on that? Because
I can always say something about anything.
Well, I was going to ask you anyway about what you're doing from a safety standpoint related to some of these things, and it kind of ties into what Don was saying.
When we knew that we were going to be able to open, the first thing that came to our mind is we've got to make sure that everybody knows that this is a safe environment. The coronavirus hasn't gone away just because we open our doors. So we had to do everything we can, everything from on our billboard where we say it's, we've got a safe environment, but everybody that walks in our door, installers included at the back door, but every customer that walks in, first thing we do is we take their temperature. We zap to make sure. Next thing we do is everybody has to wear a face mask. If they don't come in with a face mask, we have face masks for them, even the logoed face mask. So it's nice having some of those going around town. The other thing we do is we ask them to put on a fresh pair of gloves. And everybody goes back and forth on whether or not the gloves are important, whether or not they work. And what we explain to our customers is we can't sanitize every sample in this showroom. And when you go around here, you're going to be touching everything. So I want you to put on a fresh pair of gloves, and our salesperson greets them and they put on a fresh pair of gloves and they can touch everything that they want. Narrow it down to those samples that they really want to look at. Let's bring them over to the table. Let's take the gloves off. You can touch and feel. We can sanitize those and check them out to you. And let them know when every sample comes back, it goes to a special area waiting to be sanitized to go back up on our floor. And our customers actually appreciate it. We've had people say, thank you for taking my temperature. Oh, I feel so good about it. Have not had a single customer that was cautious about things. They felt very comfortable. And to us, that was the main thing going into all this, is to make sure that they know that we're doing everything we possibly can to protect them.
Sam, thank you. You actually give me a good point for a commercial right here. So if you go to the WFCA.org website, you will see a plethora of information available to you, much of it translated again from DC by our legal counsel, Jeff King. But Sam also provided us something that we put out there, which is kind of a checklist that you can give to customers before they come in. You can do it with your employees. You can do it with vendors who are coming in. Basically, we want you to do these things before you come into our store so we can keep that safe environment. Because Don, something you said, it never occurred to me, but you're right. I was going to ask you guys, how do you think customers will change? But one of the changes will be they don't want to shop as many places as they did before, because the chance of coming in contact with this virus is greater the more you're out there. So this does give the small business player an advantage over the big player where there are 100 people coming through. And it also gives you a reason to market a little bit differently. So with that in mind, Dean, I want to go back to you because you've already talked about the at-home shopping experience. How do you make that safe? Obviously, you can control the environment of your store. How do you control the samples that are going to your customers at their home, that type of thing?
Well, I mean, we ask our salespeople to wear a mask and to wear gloves, and they just have to be. I mean, we're in a shop at home environment. We're dealing with less samples. You know, we're going into the living room and we're having a discussion with the client. You know, what do you want us? What would you like to see? You know, what do you want your room to look like? All the, you know. And therefore, we're controlling, to Sam's point, you know, they're bringing samples over to a desk, as you know, so, and then they're allowing the clients to touch from there. So you know, there's not as many samples to deal with, and it's much easier to handle. But we're bringing them in and cleaning them as we bring them back out, if you will.
Yeah, and then you can certainly control the amount of samples going to them if you, like you said, use the visualization tool first, so they have a better idea of what they want to see at their home. You're not having to take everything in.
Yeah, when we set an appointment for a shop at home service, actually, and quite frankly, we need to be doing this on all of them. We're sending a link to our product catalog to get some feedback, you know, what they may be interested in.
Terrific. Terrific. Deb, you have likely been impacted harder than anybody because your governor has taken a very staunch stance on letting people go back to work. I want to ask you a couple of questions. One, how do you keep your team together and motivated? I mean, obviously communication is important there. And then what do you do to prepare for when the gates open?
So one of the things, and you hit right on it right away there, is the communication is key. We have multiple locations, so I've tried to be in front of them, communicate with them directly, both the good and the bad, to be honest with you. I mean, we have to be transparent with our staff and some of the challenges that lie ahead of us. I mean, this isn't all going to be roses, but I tried to explain to them and set the stage for them that people have been cooped up in their home. The minute that they can get out, those that want to get out, and based on the news and things that I see on Facebook feed and that sort of thing, is, I mean, we have people chomping at the bit to get out. And so part of what I had kind of laid out for them happened on Monday. I mean, our showrooms were full of people. We were handing out masks. We have gloves, you know, same as everybody else has already gone through. I won't belabor that, but I mean, we had a lot of people, and I had salespeople, you know, honestly kind of like, wow, we were so busy today. And I said, wait a minute, guys. I mean, this is what we need. I mean, we want this. And I tried to just be very positive about, I mean, people are coming back in our showrooms. They're comfortable to be in our showrooms. And for that, we're extremely blessed that they're here. But I also, on the backside of that, said there will be a lull again, because I mean, we're open right now, but the restaurants are not, and 80% of our state is not. Well, the minute those other things start opening, people will have more options. And so we need to be cognizant of that. And we're still competing for their business and for their trust in our company. So don't become complacent because people are flooding in just right now. I mean, this is the first week that we've been open, and I've lost count, to be honest, 7 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
And so it's that diligence to continue to be the best. And to add to Dean's point, I mean, when he just said, you know, we should be doing that with everybody sending that link, you know, to try to pre-qualify some things and be efficient. we should be doing that with everybody for sure. I mean, no matter what, before we even go out and measure, before we do any of those things, give them those visualization tools, put them right in front of them to help the selection process move quicker, if you will.
Yeah. Anything, any of the rest of you, Don, are you doing anything different to keep your group engaged or to prepare them?
Well, okay, so yes and no. Let me tell you why yes. You guys look at where we are as an economy today, right now. Our biggest opportunity as independent dealers, we have a better opportunity today to take market share from big box retailers, more so than ever. And by the way, they've taken a lot of market share from independent dealers over the years. I mean, you go back when we used to have, 17, 18,000 stores out there, now we're down in that 11, 12,000 range. That happened because of big box stores. That happened because of, people giving away product and everything else. But we've got such a great opportunity for the independent retailers to stand up and provide services that these big boxes can never dream of doing. And they've never done before. They were there by true convenience. They're open from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. Our retail stores aren't, because we choose not to. We're not convenient because we don't want to be. We want to be, but it comes at a price, right? How many people want to be open till 9, 10 o'clock at night? But we've got an awesome opportunity, all retailers, to take market share from these big, and we gotta put the pedal down on the floor and go after it.
Yeah. So what do you do? And I throw this to all of you. If we know that they're not going to shop as many places and they're going to be picking that one destination, what do you do to become that destination, Dean?
Well, I think now's the time to do more advertising. I mean, it may be counterintuitive. It hasn't been said yet. There's a bunch of smart people here, but I mean, and I know they're all thinking the same thing, but I mean, now's the time. In our case, we chose to do digital because we could turn it on instantly, so we doubled our digital marketing budget starting this week. I mean, we hope to take advantage, of the fact that people aren't going to shop as many places, that we're able to, wrap our arms around these clients. We're wrap around, I shouldn't say that, not now, not literally, but I mean, we're going to do all the right things to make sure we have a great experience, and that's something that big box stores, cannot offer. So I would submit that now's the time to do more, spend more money on advertising.
But Deb,
One of the things that I would say, and we've done it in 2 circumstances here locally, is we leveraged the relationships that we have with our ad buys and asked for some added value. And so this morning I did a Zoom call that was part of a morning news show that aired at 11 o'clock this morning. So, and that wasn't like an ad in your face to people. It was more of a, how are you doing, local business, what are you feeling, and more of an interview. And then I was on the morning news, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, and they re-aired it like 8 times. And I paid nothing for that. And it was just simply, as a business owner, how's DeGraff doing? And we'd like to talk to a small business, and we leverage the relationship that we have and the dollars that we spend advertising for that kind of bonus time, if you want to say. That wasn't so come by right now. It was just, it was more engaging, I guess, for the audience, and our hits to our website just skyrocketed because people saw a real person talking about the same problems that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Don, I'll come to you, but let me ask Sam first, because Sam, on our calls that we have each week, you're one of the first I heard that went back to the advertisers and renegotiated pricing with them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It was amazing, and especially at that time, because now we're going back probably 5-6 weeks ago. And like everybody else, when we had to shut down, the panic hits in and says, what are we going to do? We need to save all of our dollars, so you cut advertising. And then once you had a chance to breathe and said, you know what, there's golden opportunities out there. And if you were, as I'm sure all of y'all were doing, like I was doing, I was watching the news 24/7, just couldn't get away from it. And you start seeing the same commercials over and over and over, and you're not seeing the regular commercials. So we got together with our advertising agency. Long story short, the media is so happy. They were so hungry to have new blood, new advertising out there, that the rates they gave us were just they were crazy. They were stupid. They were pennies on the dollar kind of rates. So we took advantage of that and just made a second buy going into that as well. And it has, and at that point in time, because we were shut down, it was driving people to our website. And from looking at the statistics, from what we hear from some of our peers in our buying group, is we're at least 3 times more people going to our room visualizer than anybody else.
That's
And
amazing.
it was really working out well. But the advertisers still out there. People, it's not as attractive now, but they're still making deals.
Yeah, so everybody should be going to their media partners and asking them for a break on advertising so that they can take advantage of this. Don?
You know, as an industry, we're not known for having a lot of people doing advertising. A lot of people, you know, live off of, hey, I've been in the market forever, people know me, you know, and you can still drive more business to you, but we're not advertising for just flooring. We're advertising against the disposable income that people have out there. So, you know, if you're not advertising in your marketplace, you know, if you're not spending a fair amount of money on advertising, it's going to go to the car dealers. It's going to go to the furniture people. It's going to go to the, you know, the people that are spending money, because it's electronics, for example. I mean, how many people look at their floors and they go, you know, I can live with that for another year, but Lord knows I need this 80-inch, you know, TV, and I got to have it now, you know, and they do. If our industry would just dial it up a little bit in all markets, if everybody would get in, it would send a lot more dollars into the flooring industry, making people think about the flooring industry as a whole and hopefully capture more share. You've seen dealers in marketplaces, right, go out of business, and everybody says, oh gosh, they used to do $30 million, but they also advertise a ton. And if somebody doesn't pick up that advertising, you're not going to pick up that volume. You might get 8 million of it to stay, but it'll get snatched away.
Yeah, we have a bad tendency in this industry to function independently. But even a group within a given area agreeing to advertise together, there are a lot of conglomerations like that have happened over the years that have worked very well. Sam, you had your hand up to add some comment to that.
Yeah, I think the thing that what we're finding of the people that are coming in the store is we have to realize that people have been at home canceling their vacations, canceling their trip to Europe, canceling their big purchases and big summer vacations. And so what are they going to do with those dollars? Now they're looking at these ugly floors, and it's time to change. And we're talking to customers, they're coming in and they're telling us those exact stories. And who really is coming in are those that, not that they're not affected by the coronavirus, but they're not as affected as the average worker. We're finding people with money now have money to spare. And Don's absolutely right. We're competing with that other major purchase. And so the time is to get out there now, let people know we're still in business. We're here and we can take care of your needs.
Good. Deb?
So one just quick thing for those that are concerned about spending money on advertising, do not forget at all Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. There is so much you can do on those platforms literally for free to keep your message out there, keep it current, keep it fresh, use videos as much as possible, because those prove to be the most engaging. I mean, people engage with those 80% versus something they have to read is about 20%. So I just, if it's about spending money and you're concerned about doing that, consider those free platforms and boost those posts for the $10, $15 or whatever it is. And you'll be amazed how much traffic comes to your website from those social media platforms.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, we had heard this and we had talked about this on our weekly calls. We hoped people would get tired of looking at the same floor and say, oh my gosh, I've got to fix that. But we did a survey here at the WFCA, and it confirmed that. Many of the written comments we got back said that people were coming in who had said, I want to do 1 or 2 rooms, that are now doing the whole house. It's just the mindset has changed. And if we treat them like the old mindset, we won't succeed at the level that we could. Right. I want to give credit to a couple of people who've responded here. Adriana has said that specs, data, SDS brochures, and color selections can also be shared by email. So there are things we can do that maybe we weren't doing before. And I like this question that was given to us by Spencer Graham. It says, thoughts on running a sale to attract customers during COVID-19. If you were running a sale today to attract customers during this time, how would it differ from what you had done previously? Sam?
We do 3 major events a year. One was right at the end of March, so that didn't happen. We've got another one scheduled to come up in a month. But the fear, because we have a social obligation to our community, the fear, this is the only time that we drive traffic in droves with people standing and waiting for the next salesperson to be up. It's short-term, urgency to buy kind of things. And we're having debates. As much as we need the volume, I don't think it's prudent right now in today's society to have that many people in our showroom. And we're a large showroom. We're a 34,000 square foot building. So there's lots of room, but you can't have 50 people hanging around just waiting. I don't think it's socially responsible to do a major event. Other sales, maybe, but so that's where our debate is right now.
Yeah, and you could do sales associated with shop at home. They don't all have to be in the retail establishment. So there are other ways to do it. Deb, I'm going to go to you, and then Don, I'll come to you, but Deb had her hand up.
So 2 things. One thing I would be sure to do is incorporate financing into whatever you're putting out there, because there are still people, there's a lot of unanswered questions, there's a lot of unknowns, and they may, even though they receive stimulus money potentially and canceled vacations and have these funds, they may still be timid and would be more than likely to spend more money if they had free advertising available for them to do that, or free financing, excuse me. And then secondly, I just wanted to agree 100% with Sam. As much as we want to drive business, I think we have to, one of the things that we're looking at, and I don't have all the answers yet because we haven't gotten there, is offer a coupon thanking people for their patience in buying local, and basically register for your coupon today. And we're not asking people to spend money up front, but just register your coupon today with your name, email, phone number, because coming soon there'll be a sale that you can use this coupon on when it's safe. And we haven't pulled it all together, but I just thought I'd share that concept real quick.
No, that's a great idea, Deb. Don?
Well, one of the things, like in your case, Sam, where you have an event, and that event usually is over a limited number of days, what you can do and what you probably should do is, I wouldn't give up on the event. I'd just stretch it out, and I would stretch it out and do by appointment, because, we do a lot of private sales a year. We tell people if they call ahead for a pre-measure, we're going to give them, $100 off their order. We like to get set appointments anyway, because like you said, if you get 30 people coming in your store, who do you give the time to? We try to set appointments. So I think you can still do these events. I think you should still do them. I think you just need to stretch them out longer. And so instead of being over a 3-day weekend, maybe it's over a 2-week period, but then you can make your appointments, you can do those things and still distance,
Good.
That's the power of all of us getting together and sharing ideas. Right there, that little networking bit. Thank you, Don.
Hey, I've got
I get commission on that?
no commission.
I knew that was coming.
A question from a friend of mine, Steve Weisberg, has asked, and this will be the last question we answer right now. We'll come back to your other questions, continue to put them in, and we'll come back to them on the backside of Jeff's presentation. But before we go to Jeff, what have you guys done to establish protocols for installers going into customers' homes?
I mean, I can and I think because I've been on the call with these other gentlemen, we're asking them to give us, provide their temperature. Either we take it or they need to tell us. I mean, we are trusting them in that regard of the temperature of the morning. We make sure they have gloves, masks, and we ask them to wear those things. Now, we can't accompany them to every job, and what they do once they get to the job in the comfort of the home and with the agreement of the homeowner is obviously out of my hands. So, but we can only set the stage as best as we can for each of those individuals. But that's what we're asking them to do at this time.
All right, thanks, Deb. Sam?
The only other thing that we're doing is when we're setting up the installations, it's important to communicate with the consumer, letting them know that just because we're starting a job doesn't mean we're going to be able to complete it, which is a really weird thing to tell a customer. But somebody in their household might get sick and we can't come back out. Our installers might get sick and may not have somebody else to finish the job for a while. Everybody understands that we're in a pandemic right now, but they wouldn't understand unless you talk to them ahead of time. If you want us to start this job, here's the things here's the protocols we'll put in place, but there really are no guarantees.
Now that's important. Make them aware something could come up. This may not be the way we've been able to function in the past.
I always refer to that as setting an expectation rather than providing an excuse.
Great. Guys,
So-
thank you so much for your comments so far. I'm going to come back to you guys if you can hang with us a while, but I want to turn it over to what I would consider the star of the show over the last few weeks, and that's Jeff King. Jeff is the partner with J.W. King and Associates. He has been the legal counsel for the WFCA for over 20 years. A good friend of mine. A trip to DC is not the same unless I can go with Jeff King. We have the best time up there on your behalf, lobbying and meeting with the people that are making decisions that impact your life. And Jeff, I know we're going to go to a PowerPoint, so Louis, if you'll get that set up. And Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm assuming you all are getting pretty tired of my voice at this point, and I'm just going to follow up. The very last question, we're putting together for CFI a checklist for them so they can tell, to give out to their members on what an installer should do to protect themselves and protect their customers. That'll be available to WFCA as well, and it's something you may want to hand out to your installers as you engage them in this process. And that should be out early next week, a complete list. We already have a list for your stores, and a lot of those things you can use that list in many ways to also advise your installers. But with that said, let's go into this presentation. I hope my squeaky little Northeast accent hasn't gotten too irritating by this point. Try to get this to work, Louis. There we go. Whoops, went too far. See if it works. There we go. As we go, shelter-in-place are being lifted and orders are being eased and everybody's reopening. We want you to consider a number of things. One, obligations we talked about a little bit to keep your employees and customers safe, which employees to bring back, paid sick leave, and a little bit I want to give you on some updates on the PPP loan forgiveness. So we'll go through this quite quickly. Be aware that when you bring a customer in, there's going to be a potential liability and when you bring an employee in, it's going to be a potential liability. You actually have obligations under OSHA, and those obligations are to keep the workplace free from serious recognized hazards and to comply with standards, rules, and regulations. While OSHA has issued standards on how employees should be treated, you need to comply with them. Again, go to the WFCA website. You can get all that information. We've actually taken the entire OSHA recommendations along with the CDC recommendations. We've looked at multiple other proposals, and in that process, we have put together a pretty good list for you to deal with on this issue. Also be aware that workers' comp is being expanded. Some states workers' comp would not cover infections. Some states it does. Be aware of that aspect. But if you want to help keep your workers' comp rule claims down and therefore your costs down next year, you'll take these precautions because it's going to be harder and harder, with the exception of California, to prove that the person got the infection at your facility. For customers, you have a duty to take reasonable cautions. There is some possible legislative relief. We're looking at it now. Oklahoma has, the Senate has passed a law saying customers can't sue. Federal government is looking at some insurance issues and also some safe regards. But all of those rules, all those proposed legislation, all involve you complying with the OSHA and CDC compliance recommendations. So follow the precautions. Go to the website, get the list of recommendations, check your workers' comp insurance coverage. Also check your regular coverage. You may have liability if a customer sues you. Just make sure all of that is in place, excuse me, now before this becomes an issue for you all. Next question is what employees to bring back. I've had this question from bunch of, what about older employees, pregnant women or pre-existing conditions? It makes them very susceptible. I don't want to bring these people back and expose them to illness. I'm a good-natured, employer. The problem is EOC has already said, you can't discriminate. You can't solely exclude a worker because they have a disability or have a higher risk of severe illness. You can't discriminate on age, on disability, on gender. So the moment you make this determination that I'm not going to bring back somebody who's pregnant, not bring back somebody who's older, or bring back somebody who has a pre-existing condition, you may be violating the law. Generally, you're not allowed to ask somebody about pre-existing conditions. It's illegal, but under the EOC has said you can in these circumstances because of the serious risk that you could be exposing folks to. So you can ask them and try to find an accommodation. If it's your bookkeeper, can they work from home most of the time? Can you do changing shifts? Can you have the warehouse done so you have certain warehouse people come in the evening, to reorganize while the other people who are delivering are there during the day. When you bring them back, make sure you use a non-discriminatory system. That system can be on seniority. If you've let some people go, but not all of them go, use the same system you decided who was going to go and bring them back in the same order if you can. If you have a record of somebody not being a particularly good worker, you can put them to the back of the list, but you need to make sure all this is documented and you're not discriminating in the process. I don't want you to start to bring these people back and your good-natured thing of trying to protect folks suddenly creates a litigation problem for you. Don't forget that the Family First Act has this family leave provision. And most of you aren't affected by it if you're under a shelter-in-place order or you simply didn't have business. You didn't have to bring people, the Department of Labor said you don't have to pay anybody even if they're out for the reasons that are, doctor's orders, they're sick themselves or caring for someone who's sick or their children are out of school and daycare center, unless you actually have work for them. So for most of you, this didn't affect you. But as you start bringing people back in and offering them back to work, and all of a sudden they tell you, I can't come back in because I don't have daycare and my child's out of school. This kick-in of this 12 weeks of sick pay plus the 2 weeks of sick pay and the 10 weeks of family leave are going to kick in, and you're going to have to pay that. Now that is completely payable back to you through tax credits and system. We have all of that online for you to figure out how to do that. But be aware of that. When you bring them back, you may have this obligation again. Don't forget to do that. And certainly don't discriminate against them by not bringing them back in, saying, I'm not going to bring this person back because they have kids and they're going to end up having to get sick leave. That will surely get you a potential discrimination claim. Payroll, many of you have gotten is the PPP loans. Some of you have gotten them now. You're approaching the 4 weeks. You're going to have 4 weeks done within a month, and you're going to have to start applying for forgiveness. Remember the rules: 75% on payroll. Also remember that even if you have 75% on payroll, you still have to have the number of full-time employee equivalents. They have to be the same during the 8 weeks as you had between either February 15th of last year to June 30th of last year. Sorry for the typo in there, I didn't have June. Or January 1st of this year to February 29th of this year. You get to pick which one you want. And a full-time equivalent is all your full-time employees plus any part-time employees that add up to a full-time. So if you have 5 people that work 1 day a week, then you have 1 full-time employee for those 5 people. You also have to pay within 25% of what you paid them before. And you have to have signed to get the loan a certificate of necessity saying, I need this loan because it's going to adversely impact, potentially hurt my potential business in the future. Make sure you document all those expenses. Follow all your employee guides. The certificate of necessity just got much easier, by the way, in this regard. This week, on Wednesday, the Small Business Administration issued a determination that given the overwhelming number of loans and their inability to be able to check up on everything, and the fact that smaller loans are less likely, smaller loans are given to smaller people who are less likely to have lied on their certificate of need because they really do need the money, all certificates of need for any loan under $2 million will be deemed as appropriate and made in good faith. So that's not an issue. If you're over $2 million, you need to show that you actually had that need. But even if they determine you didn't, all you have to do is pay the loan back. You're not going to be held responsible saying you fraudulently mandated it or you acted in bad faith. But make sure you document all your expenses. And finally, I want to let you know there's this new act that I think is being passed today in the House. I don't know how much of it will survive, but there's parts of that that are very, very good for the PPP loan. One of the silly things of the PPP loan is you had to get it, and as soon as you got it, the 8 weeks started. Well, some of you weren't ready to have the 8 weeks start. Well, this new loan is going to give you 28 weeks to spend that money in. And it's going to allow the full-time employee equivalents to be less, provided you've offered the job back in writing and they've said no, they don't want to come back. And there's also going to be some other relief with regard to whether you have the ability to bring them back financially, meaning whether you need it or not. I don't know if that's going to be retroactive, so I don't want to tell you you're good, go ahead and, figure it out later, but that is something that may happen in the future. So those of you who can't bring everybody back or haven't brought everybody back, you're not going to make the 75% or the full-time equivalent thing. Be aware and keep advised that you may be able to still get most of that, if not all of that loan forgiven, if the HEROES Act or some form of it passes. It's still got to get through the Senate. They said it's dead on arrival in the Senate. I don't think these are the issues that make it dead on arrival. So there's going to be something done. We're heavily involved in the lobbying aspect of that, everything from pandemic insurance issues to it, to this portion of it. We've been heavily involved in the lobbying on that, and we'll continue to try to protect you on that. I know that's quick and a lot of diverse information, but I'm open for any questions you want.
Hey, Jeff, we already have a question here from Spencer Graham. It says it's a question related to the PPP loan forgiveness. That part of it about not reducing employee pay more than 25%, even though commissions are lower and you have 8 weeks of pay to meet forgiveness and the loan was given based on a quarter. How do you make all that make sense?
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. I mean, it was rushed through so quickly. That's why the HEROES Act actually fixes a lot of the silliness of this thing. And I know that's a stupid name, but that's the name that they gave it. So when they put the CARES Act together, it was a little rushed through and they really didn't think it well. There's a couple of things you can do. When you put your loan together, you took all your commissions in for that 12 months or last year, and that was part of what you calculated as your payroll costs. There's several things you can do. You can continue to pay commissions based upon that average, and that'll keep you closer to that number. But then you're paying them a commission for work not done. There's a question of whether you can pay them that as an advance on their future commissions, and therefore it'll reduce the commissions in the future. That's a little iffy. I don't want to tell you can do that. But if you have a system where you have paid advance commissions and then use them in the beginning of the year, you have dull periods. I assume nobody has a lot of sales in January and February in this industry. Do you pay you advance people commissions then during these slow periods, which you utilize later? Well, if you do that, then I think you can do it again here. But I wouldn't want you to institute a whole new system that looks like you're trying to jimmy the system. So that's one way to do it. Also, this new HEROES Act may provide relief. We will keep you informed, but I don't think this will see the light of day until the end of June, this new law.
Cool. Jeff, thank you. Before we go to any other questions, I noticed that my dear friend Don Roberts has put an amazing reminder up for me behind his head about the Floor Covering Education Foundation. Last fall, many of the people that are here as our retail rock stars had the idea of really combining the industry around an initiative. In fact, I would tell you this is an unprecedented endeavor. There's never been a time that the entire industry came together to address a single issue. We always operate in our silos. But the Floor Covering Education Foundation was founded for us to come together to address the issue of the lack of installers and the quality of installation out there. I'm not saying installation is the problem, but I am saying that together we can make installation the solution. It is the last thing that goes in a consumer's home, whether residential or commercially. It reflects on the retailer, even though oftentimes because of use of subcontractors, they're not directly able to control what happens. But if we can train people right from the start, then we can change that. And so we know that there is a lack of installers. In fact, we saw this so much that the WFCA decided that the only way we could get the industry to rally was to put our money where our mouth is. And so these guys and the rest of the executive committee proposed the idea to me of putting up $1 million of the WFCA's money and then asking the rest of the industry to match that. And I will tell you, the industry responded amazingly. Some of the major players in the industry came together and put their money where their mouth was too. And now we're not backing off. In fact, I can tell you some of the leading leaders in the flooring industry have said the biggest challenge we face coming out of this is that everybody's going to want it done quickly, and we're not going to have enough installers to do it. Let's not take away from that one bubble we're going to have. There will be some lull time after this, and we know we're going to need more installers, but we're going to need them now. And so I was so pleased to see the board of directors for the FCEF, which is kind of a who's who around the flooring industry. We have people from installation, we have manufacturers, we have distributors, we have other associations, all coming together to say, don't stop, don't slow down. Even though recessions typically help solve this problem, every time we come out of a recession, the problem is twice as bad as it was when we went into. We've got to move full steam ahead. And we've seen that in the funding that has been committed, both verbally and physically, and we are excited about this foundation and its path going forward. There's a lot more that you'll be hearing about the Floor Covering Education Foundation in the times to come, but I want you to know that it is a big part of what the WFCA is putting their emphasis on right now. Don, you want to add anything to that?
Nope, it was great. We've been very blessed with a lot of industry leaders getting around this. I mean, it's been very good. We hope to continue it, and just stay tuned to the WFCA website, the soon-to-be Floor Covering Education Foundation website. There'll be updates posted there regularly. Trades have gotten behind it as well and are supporting us as well, so it's great.
Thank you very much. And guys, thank you for your
It's
leadership.
gonna also remind me of a couple of things. One is that I mentioned the family first and the sick pay and family leave requirements. There is an exemption if you're under 50 employees. You have to request it, but it's self-certifying. You don't have to get approval for it. You just self-certify. But it has to show that you simply can't afford to front the money to pay this, even though you ultimately get it back in tax credits and retention of your payroll taxes, which is one of the ways you get to refund it, and you're supposed to get it funded quickly. If you simply can't fund the money without putting your company in jeopardy, you get to exempt that, and that is self-certifying. You don't apply to them. You simply say, I can't afford to do it. They can audit you, and if you can document the fact that you could not front the costs, you can have issues. But other than that, I want to mention it. And the other thing I do want to mention is that on the forgiveness loan, we're anticipating within the next week, in fact, possibly we had to hope this week, the SBA would issue its PPP loan forgiveness standards. And so keep, if you guys approach this, keep checking the WFC website, because once they're published, we will put them out for you, and we will obviously analyze them and provide you with as much detail and information and some guidance on them as we can do.
Thank you, Jeff. Heidi asked a question related to the PPP loans. It says, is the 75% of pay required to be 75% of average weekly pay of that previous quarter, or 75% of the previous entire quarter's pay per employee?
It's 75% of the loan.
Okay.
Okay, it's got to be 75% of the loan. And that's one of the three requirements. There's 4 requirements, but unless you're over $2 million, the 4th requirement, which is a good faith certification, is no longer in play. But that's one of the 3 requirements, along with keeping your payroll within 25%, each person's pay within 25% of they were making the quarter before, and maintaining the full-time employee equivalents. But the 75% applies to how much of the loan can be used. It has 75% of that loan to be forgiven must be used for payroll. If it's under that, then the amount that's forgiven will be proportionately not allowed to be forgiven. It won't, unless you pay no payroll. If you pay no payroll under the loan, then none of it will be forgivable. But other than that, it'll just be proportionally reduce the amount that's not forgivable.
Okay, Jeff, 2 quick questions for you, and then I'm going to go back to one final question for our retail all-stars / rock stars. So Jeff, will any new HERO loan rules be used for those of us that have already received loans in the first round? Is there any chance? I think you mentioned you're not sure if any of this would be retroactive, but
The HEROES Act is 1,800 pages. Came out, in fact, I got the version that's out on Wednesday that I'm starting to go through again, trying to figure it out. And that changed from the version that was out on Monday. And I don't know what the version is that is going to be passed today. But it's 1,800 pages, and I'm still going through it. I do not see a retroactive aspect in it when I go through the PPP loan portions of it. But I do believe that that will be something we'll advocate for, so that if somebody doesn't make that 75% number, they can go back and get, so therefore they end up with a loan that says, I got a $1 million loan and I still got 100 grand of it left over because I didn't make the 75% rule. They can go back later and get that 100,000 forgiven as well.
yeah, I say this a lot, Jeff, and I think people might not understand if they've not been around legislation, but oftentimes it's voted on before it's finalized. And so a lot of the finalization of what is entailed in a bill happens on the backside, and further negotiation that takes place after the official votes that you often see. One more question for you, Jeff, from Steve Weisberg again. I have an employee who is expecting her first baby at the end of July. If she is concerned about working in the new environment, does he have an obligation to pay her?
Actually, no. He has an obligation to offer her a job back, and to make reasonable accommodations possibly for her. But pregnancy is is not truly a disability, but it may be perceived in these weird circumstances. So I don't want to tell you normally it's not, but it could be here. And you should see if there's some accommodation you can make for her. She's a salesperson, there's probably no accommodation. If she's a receptionist, there's no accommodation. If she works in the back office, you might find a way to accommodate that. You can isolate her in her office, in other words, and put her in a separate office as opposed to an open area. There's some things, but always look to accommodate if you can, because it reduces the risk of somehow you're discriminated against. In her case, not only on a potential what might be a unique disability because of the virus being around, but also because she's a woman. And that is a classification you have to be very careful with.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Jeff. He is talking about paying her now. He's not talking about in the future. But does he have to pay her now for the time that she would have normally stopped working?
The answer is that no, not if she's taking leave on purpose. In other words, she was always going to take leave because she's in the last throes of her pregnancy. No, you do not have to pay her. That if you have a leave policy, you have to pay her under the leave policy. But she has depending on your size, if you're over 25 lawyers and you have family leave. 25, I got to go back and look at it. Family leave obligations, but those family leave obligations do not require payment. If you're 100 employees or more, I think you have family leave obligations. That just means you have to keep her job open for when she comes back. It doesn't mean you have to pay her.
Okay, I said that was the last one, but Jeff, this will be the last one. Does the reduction combine the percentage of total payroll as, say, a 25% deduction, and then say 10% lower number of employees, making that reduction now 35%?
Yeah, it's going to impact you both ways, but it's not clear how they're going to calculate it. That's what's been the problem. It's pretty easy to say, well, if I pay half of my, it's instead of 75%, it's half of that, then I assume I'm going to get, half of 75% is going to not be forgiven. Yeah. On the other hand, what if I also pay 10% less to the employees? Is that an extra on top of that? I don't think it will be, because it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, the reason you didn't make the 75% is because you also had the 10 or 25% reduction in total employees. So I don't think they're going to double dip it, but we haven't seen any of those rules yet.
Okay. All right, guys, for the retail rock stars, I've got one other question for you. And this one really is a question that we're probably all going to want an answer to. Are you seeing customers are more concerned about having a touchless, contactless point of sale option because of the fear of germs versus signing credit cards? Obviously, many of you are providing gloves, so that's one thing, but is there any kind of technology you're utilizing that supports it?
We have pushed more for paying online. We have a pay module on our website, and if people want to pay with credit card, they can, instead of asking them and talking about coming into the store as an option, we're trying to drive them more to our website.
Good. Anyone else?
We haven't had an issue of it. I mean, we got a separate unit that they go up and push their card into. They deal with it. We wipe it down.
Okay. All right. Dean?
Well, mentioned earlier that we're aligned with Podium. They are introducing a service that would be touchless.
Okay.
And we've talked to them, during this down period, but we hadn't committed to that yet. But there are services out there, like as Deb mentioned.
Yeah, I encourage you guys to look at some of the resources that are available to you through the WFCA. Again, I'll tout to you the coronavirus page as soon as you come on to WFCA.org. If you'll go into coronavirus response, everything we talked about today, some of the questions that you may have entered late that I wasn't able to get to, we'll send to Jeff. Jeff responds to everything. I mean, it's just amazing. People will send him an individual email and he will respond to that. We take that response and then add it into our Q&A section because it's typically a question someone else is thinking about too. And those answers, all of that is available to you. So it is a resource that has everything possible for you. In addition to things like Podium that allow you to get communications from your customers with specific questions directed to you or to the appropriate member of your party that should be answering that question. Real quickly, guys, before we end, I'm just going to, and really don't be long, but why does the WFCA matter to you as an independent flooring retailer? Deb?
I just enjoy to be part of a group that has supported myself and my family and my father's family going way back, and just to be able to give back in the capacity that I am right now with the group is really a blessing for me.
Thanks, Deb. Don?
We don't have a lot of people in our industry that are going to look up for us. We need that voice. I mean, what Jeff does, what the WFCA does on the lobby side that nobody really understands and sees is so huge. None of us can do that on our own. I mean, and more, the network alone, I mean, the people that you meet, by the way, you can pick up the phone. I can call, hundreds of people and call and get advice, and they'll talk and they'll network. And it's not like we're competition. Somebody's got the answer out there. You don't have to, go down each road yourself and plow. People have already done that. They can help you. And it's a great network for that.
Good. Dean?
The networking, again, it's easy to be in a room and be surrounded by people with, that have forgotten more about floor covering than I'll ever know. Online training, we actually use that. I would encourage everybody to check that out. And then Jeff King and the whole government affairs and what they're bringing to the table, I think would be my top three.
Yeah, and Sam, I go to you last because I begged Sam to come onto our board when I first got here, and he said, "You don't want me." Sam thought we were just a board of yes people, and I think these guys will tell you that that's not the case. We go back and forth, but we look out for the solution that is best for the industry as a whole. So, Sam, why does the WFCA matter to you?
Well, I was on for about 10 years, and then I got off because it was just a yes board. And I am so excited to be on the board now because the things that this board is doing, this is us taking care of us.
Yeah.
We all belong to other organizations within our industry, and they are all focused on them. Yeah, they can focus on us too and help us out. But it's either product driven or this is the one opportunity we have for our industry to take care of ourselves. When you look at the breadth of all that the WFCA does, whether it be supporting the Floor Covering Education Foundation, which is the brand new endeavor you talked about, or the Floor Covering Industry Foundation. You want to talk about us taking care of us?
Yeah.
Here's a foundation strictly to help out those in our industry who have suffered a catastrophic illness. And none of that would be possible without the WFCA. So whether it's Jeff doing an amazing job from a legal standpoint and our lobbying efforts, these are things that no other floor covering organization would dare to take on. So being a member of the WFCA is a pride and joy, but just seeing all that is possible out there, every retailer in this country, floor covering retailer, needs to be a member because the more we are, the stronger we are.
Thank you, Sam. And Jeff?
If I can answer this question, because I am not in the flooring industry, I'm an attorney. But the reason I love this industry is because it's America. It's people with enough guts to start a business. It's families working together. It's, it involves people who have MBAs down the guys who started on their knees and end up owning stores or large installation homes. Houses. It's remarkable business. It is what you look at and say, hey, I get to see America and I watch it grow. I watch it. It's all, with all of its goods and all of its bads, I get to see it all. This is one of the most remarkable industries. And I love working with you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And guys, I can share as the head of the WFCA, I get to come to work every day. It is a joy. And it's a joy because I'm surrounded with people like the people that have shared their time and their lives and their expertise with you today. Thank you, guys. We'll be doing this on an ongoing basis. This was an idea from Don. Actually, Mannington did this utilizing some of these guys, and they had a great response. And Mannington's a great partner to us. And I thought, you know what? We need to be doing that too. And Don shared that idea with me. So we will be bringing other retailers on to share their best practices. And we want to do this at least once a month, maybe more often once we're past the coronavirus. But right now, we'll continue to communicate that to you as it's a primary focus for all of us. Thank you for your time today and being with us. Again, we have recorded this. We will make this available to you. And all of the questions have been answered. And if they haven't been, we will respond to them directly. And that will be on our website as well. Hope you guys have a phenomenal weekend. God bless.
Thanks, you too.
Take care.
You guys.
Bye, everybody.